AITA for serving my wife divorce papers after she threatened me with separation? I'm Luca, 39, and by our 11th anniversary, I had gotten too good at swallowing the first thing I wanted to say. My wife, Marin, was 38, and when we first got married, she was the funniest person in any room. She could turn a boring family dinner into something warm just by leaning back, smirking, and saying the thing everyone else was too polite to say. For years, I loved that about her. Every Sunday morning, I still made her coffee the way she liked it, even during the weeks when we barely spoke, because some part of me kept believing the woman I married was still under all that sharpness. I would hear her moving around upstairs, know she was mad at me, and still leave the mug on her side of the counter with the little spoon resting across the top, because that was our routine. But somewhere along the way, her honesty stopped feeling brave and started feeling like a weapon. And the worst part is, I helped it happen by staying quiet too long. For most of our marriage, people thought Marin and I were the stable couple. We were the ones relatives pointed to when someone else's relationship got messy. We hosted birthdays. We remembered who needed a ride after a procedure. We showed up with casseroles, gift cards, and polite smiles when somebody else's family drama got loud. Behind that, Marin had built a habit I kept excusing because it never looked ugly enough from the outside. She told embarrassing stories about me and called them jokes. She shared arguments that should have stayed between us and called it honesty. If I asked her to stop, she said I was being too sensitive. If I stayed quiet, she treated that silence like proof she was right. The first time I remember feeling truly small was over a forgotten bill. It wasn't even a disaster. I had missed a reminder, paid it 2 days late, and handled the fee. At dinner with her mother, Elaine, and her sister, Tessa, Marin waited until dessert and said, "This is why I can't trust him with anything official." Lucas sees a due date and treats it like a suggestion. Everyone laughed. I laughed too, because that was easier. Then she added, "No, seriously, if I die, somebody please check if the lights are still on." That got a bigger laugh. Tessa nearly choked on her water. Elaine patted Marin's hand and said, "You poor thing." I remember looking down at my plate, smiling like it didn't bother me, and thinking, why am I helping them enjoy this? It got worse in small steps, the way bad habits usually do. If we argued over something simple, like whether we needed a new couch or whether to replace the dishwasher, Marin would turn it into a story later. She had a gift for making her version sound charming. She would lean into me, touch my arm, and say, "Tell them how dramatic you got." I would say, "It wasn't dramatic." She would roll her eyes and say, "See? He's doing it right now." People rarely saw the knife. They only saw the performance. One night, after she told both our families in the group chat that I was sulking again because I walked away from an argument to cool down, I finally told her it had to stop. My phone had been buzzing for 20 minutes. Laughing emojis from Tessa. A confused thumbs up from one of my cousins. Elaine writing, "Luca, honey, marriage requires communication." My own mother, Nora, sent me a private text that just said, "Are you okay?" I was standing in the kitchen when I confronted Marin. The overhead light was too bright, the dishwasher was humming, and both our phones were on the counter between us like witnesses. "I need you to stop putting our fights in the family chat," I said. Marin barely looked up from her phone. "I didn't put our fight in the family chat. I made a joke." It wasn't a joke to me. That's the problem, Luca. Everything is an injury to you. I took a breath. I had learned not to raise my voice because if I raised my voice, the next story became about that. Privacy isn't the same thing as lying, Marin. She set the phone down and stared at me like I had disappointed her. "You always want privacy when privacy protects you." That sentence stayed with me. Not because it was true, but because she said it like she had rehearsed it. I suggested counseling twice that year. The first time, she said we didn't need a stranger in our marriage. The second time, I actually found someone with openings, sent Marin the link, and put a tentative appointment on our shared calendar. She declined it within 3 minutes. Then she emailed me, even though we were in the same house. "I'm not paying a stranger to teach you how to make yourself the victim." I read that email at the kitchen table while her coffee sat untouched beside me. I didn't reply. I saved it. At the time, I told myself I saved it because maybe one day she would understand how unfair it was. Looking back, I think part of me already knew I might need proof that I had tried. The thing that finally made me stop treating our marriage like a misunderstanding wasn't one of her jokes. It was a bank alert. A few months before our anniversary, I got a notification that our mortgage payment had almost failed. That made no sense. The joint checking account was for household bills. We both contributed to it. We weren't careless with it. There should have been more than enough money. That night, after Marin went upstairs, I opened the banking app at the kitchen island. At first, I honestly hoped it was fraud by a stranger. That would have been cleaner. Scary, but cleaner. Instead, I saw repeated transfers. Not huge ones. That was the clever part. A few hundred here. 700 there. A little more after larger deposits. All going to a savings account I didn't recognize, with a nickname that meant nothing to me. I sat there for a long time with my thumb hovering over the screen. The house was quiet except for the refrigerator kicking on and off. I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe she had set up something for taxes. Maybe it was a surprise. Maybe I had forgotten a conversation. Then her tablet lit up on the counter. I didn't go looking for it. It was face up, plugged in beside the fruit bowl. A message preview from Tessa appeared at the top of the screen. Don't warn him. The point is making him feel it in front of everyone. I froze. A second message appeared. If he knows before dinner, he'll do that calm robot thing and ruin it. My stomach dropped so hard I actually looked toward the stairs, like Marin might be standing there watching me read it. The anniversary dinner had been her idea. She made the reservation and invited both families without asking me first. When I asked why it had to be a group thing, she said, "It'll be good for everyone to see us happy again." At the time, I noticed the wording. See us happy, not be happy. But I agreed, because refusing would become another story, she told the family group chat. After the tablet message, I stopped trusting the shape of the night. I didn't hack anything. I didn't break into her accounts. But our joint finances were joint, and her tablet was still connected to a message thread that kept popping up in plain view over the next few days because she'd gotten careless. I saw enough previews to know there was a plan. Then I found the transfer history in our shared account. I found references to a personal debt I knew nothing about. I found a savings account she had been feeding with money meant for household bills. The messages with Tessa were worse than the money. Marin had written, "He cares more about looking calm than being respected. I'll use that." Tessa replied, "Exactly. Make him say sorry in front of everyone. Then Elaine can back you up." Another message said, "Once he's scared, bring up the account control. He won't fight it if his parents are sitting there." I read those words 3 times, not because I didn't understand them, but because I did. The trial separation wasn't a real attempt to fix anything. It was a staged pressure tactic. Marin wanted me to panic, apologize publicly, agree to give her more control over the joint account, cover a debt she had hidden, and enter counseling only after she had framed me as the problem in front of both families. That was the moment something in me went cold. Not cruel, not explosive, just clear. I made an appointment with an attorney named Grant. I sat across from him in a plain office with a legal pad in my lap and felt ridiculous at first, like I was betraying my marriage by saying the facts out loud. Then I started talking, and the facts sounded worse outside my head. Grant didn't give me some dramatic revenge plan. He was almost boring, which was exactly what I needed. "Don't threaten her," he said. "Don't drain anything. Don't move money just because you're angry. Document, protect, and be ready." He told me what I could legally do to protect shared assets. He told me to print statements, save communications, and avoid turning dinner into a screaming match if Marin did what I thought she was going to do. He prepared divorce papers, not because filing was instant magic, but because if I decided to move forward, I needed to be ready. I put everything in a plain folder: bank statements, transfer records, screenshots with dates visible, the counseling email chain, and notes from Grant about account protection. The divorce papers were in a separate legal envelope. On the day of our anniversary dinner, I placed the folder and envelope in my car before we left. Marin wore a navy dress I had always liked. She came downstairs fastening an earring and smiled at me through the hallway mirror. "You look tense," she said. "Long day." She walked over and straightened my collar. It was such an old gesture, so familiar, that for half a second I almost let myself believe I had misunderstood everything. Then she said, "Try not to shut down tonight, okay? I want this to be good for everyone." There it was again. For everyone. The restaurant was warm and crowded, with low lighting and tables set too close together. Our families were already there when we arrived. My parents, Nora and Victor, sat on one side. Elaine sat near Marin, with Tessa beside her. Tessa gave Marin a quick look when we walked in, the kind of look people exchange when they have a secret and think nobody else speaks their language. The server took drink orders, sensed the energy, and started disappearing for longer stretches than necessary. For the first 20 minutes, Marin performed warmth. She touched my arm when she laughed. She told everyone I had picked a good wine, even though she had chosen it. She smiled too wide. Then the little cut started. "Luca's always calm," she said after Victor asked how we had been. "That's his favorite way to avoid accountability." Nora looked at me, but I kept my face neutral. Tessa laughed. "At least he's consistent." Marin turned to me. "I'm kidding. Don't do the wounded silence thing." "I wasn't," I said. "See," she said to the table, grinning. "That tone." My mother set her fork down. My father looked at Marin for a beat longer than usual. He had always been polite to her, but Victor had a way of going still when he was listening carefully. I felt the old instinct rise in me. Smooth it over. Make a joke. Smile. Save the room. This time, I let the silence sit. Dinner came. Elaine asked Marin about a recipe. Tessa asked me if I was excited for the next 11 years, and her smile had too many teeth. Marin kept checking her phone in her lap. When dessert menus arrived, Marin tapped her glass with her knife. It wasn't loud, but everyone heard it. "I think everyone here needs to witness a necessary wake-up call," she said. The table went quiet. The server, who had just stepped up with coffee, immediately remembered something somewhere else and vanished. Marin reached into her purse and pulled out a cream-colored envelope. It looked official from a distance. It wasn't. I could tell by the way she held it, with the corner facing Tessa like they had practiced. She looked at me, eyes shiny but dry. "Luca, I love you," she said. "But love isn't enough when one person refuses to grow." I heard Nora inhale. Marin continued. "For years, I've carried the emotional weight of this marriage while you hide behind silence and make me look unreasonable for asking for basic accountability." Elaine nodded immediately. "That's right." Marin handed me the envelope. "I'm asking for a 1-month trial separation. I want you to spend 1 month knowing what it feels like to lose me, so maybe you can learn how to be a better husband." Nobody moved. The paper inside was handwritten. Not legal, not even practical. It was a speech shaped like a letter. It said I would leave the house, temporarily, continue paying household expenses, attend counseling on her timeline, and demonstrate good faith by giving her primary control over the joint account during the separation. There it was. Tessa leaned forward. "Before you react defensively, maybe just listen." Elaine's voice lowered into that public whisper people use when they want to sound gentle while cutting you. "Luca, marriage is not about pride." My father reached for the paper, but I kept it in my hand. Marin watched me closely. She was waiting for something. An apology. A crack in my voice. A plea. The old Luca who would rather bleed quietly than let the table see the wound. I folded the letter once and set it beside my plate. Then I asked, "Is this a real separation, or is this another performance?" Marin blinked. "Just once." Tessa said, "Wow." Elaine snapped. "That is a cruel thing to say when your wife is being vulnerable." Marin gave me a small, sad smile. "Maybe now you'll finally take me seriously." I nodded slowly. My hands were steady, which surprised me. "Okay," I said. Then I stood up. Marin's face shifted. "Where are you going?" "To get something." I walked through the restaurant without rushing. I could feel eyes from nearby tables following me, but I didn't look back. Outside, the air felt cooler than I expected. In the parking lot, I unlocked my car, opened the back door, and picked up the folder and legal envelope from the floor behind the passenger seat. For a second, I rested my hand on the car roof and closed my eyes. I wasn't calm because I didn't care. I was calm because if I let my anger drive, Marin would make the anger the story. Grant's voice was in my head. "Document. Protect. Be ready." When I walked back in, Marin was talking. "See," she said to the table. "This is what he does. He leaves. He shuts down. He makes me the dramatic one." I set the folder on the table. "You wanted witnesses," I said. "So let's give them the whole story." Tessa's face changed first. Not enough for everyone to notice, maybe, but I saw it. The confidence drained out of her mouth. Marin stared at the folder. "What is that?" "The part you left out." Elaine straightened. "This isn't appropriate for a dinner table." I looked at her. She made it public. I made it complete. Nora spoke then, quietly but firmly. "Let him finish." It was the first time in years I heard my mother put her foot down with Marin's family. I didn't look at her because I was afraid that if I did, I would lose the steadiness I had left. I opened the folder and placed the first pages on the table. Not dramatically, not like a movie, just one stack after another. These are transfers from our joint checking account into a savings account I was never told about, I said. These are the dates. These are the amounts. This is the month our mortgage payment almost bounced. Victor picked up the bank statement. His jaw tightened. Marin reached for it. That is private. So was our marriage, I said. Until 10 minutes ago. Tessa said, you're twisting this. I placed the printed screenshots beside the statements. These are your texts with Tessa. Tessa went pale enough that Elaine turned to look at her. I read only one line out loud because I didn't need to perform the whole thing. He cares more about looking calm than being respected. I'll use that. The table went completely still. Marin whispered, Luca. I looked at her. Did you write it? She didn't answer. Tessa jumped in. I was just trying to help her stand up for herself. Victor looked up from the bank statement. By helping her move household money and ambush him at dinner? That's not what happened, Tessa said, but her voice had lost its shape. Elaine grabbed one of the screenshots and scanned it too fast. There are better ways to handle marriage problems than humiliating my daughter. I almost laughed, but there was nothing funny in me. He asked for privacy for years, Nora said. Nobody respected it. Marin's eyes filled then. Real tears, I think. But I had learned that tears could be real and still not tell the whole truth. I just wanted you to fight for us, she said. I pulled out the counseling email chain and put it on top of the stack. I tried. You declined the appointment. Then you told me you wouldn't pay a stranger to teach me how to make myself the victim. Elaine looked at Marin. Is that true? Marin wiped under her eye. I was frustrated. You were planning, I said. I placed the legal envelope on the table last. Marin stared at it like it might bite her. What is that? She asked again, but this time the confidence was gone. Real divorce papers. Tessa whispered, oh my God. I didn't hand them to Marin across the table. I didn't want a scene where she knocked them away or cried over them in front of everyone. I just rested my hand on the envelope. I didn't come here to embarrass you, I said. I came here to survive what you were already planning. Marin's face twisted. You brought divorce papers to our anniversary dinner. You brought a fake separation plan to pressure me into giving you control over our money. It wasn't fake. I pointed to the screenshots. Then why did you tell Tessa the point was to make me panic in front of everyone? She opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time all night, no one from her side rushed in to save her. Elaine was still angry, but even she looked uncertain now. Tessa stared at her water glass. My father kept reading the bank statements like he was forcing himself not to speak too soon. The server appeared, saw the papers, saw Marin crying, and said softly, I'll give you folks a few more minutes. That tiny, ordinary sentence almost broke me. A few more minutes. As if the thing happening at that table could be handled before coffee got cold. Marin leaned toward me. Can we talk outside? No, I said. You wanted the conversation here. Her cheeks flushed. You weren't supposed to turn everyone against me. I didn't, I said. I showed them what you did. Elaine stood halfway, then sat back down. This is family. You don't destroy family like this. I looked at her, and for once I didn't soften my voice. Family isn't a cover story. Nobody ate dessert. The dinner ended in pieces. My parents left first after Victor put a hand on my shoulder and said, call me tomorrow. Nora hugged me longer than usual and whispered, I'm sorry I stayed polite for so long. I told her, I asked you to. She looked at me with wet eyes. I know. Elaine tried to pull Marin away, but Marin followed me outside into the parking lot. Tessa stayed near the restaurant doors, arms crossed, looking smaller than she had looked all night. The parking lot lights buzzed overhead. My phone kept vibrating in my pocket. I could already imagine the group chat exploding. Demands, accusations, half apologies, people choosing words based on what side they wanted to survive. Marin wrapped her arms around herself. Please don't file. I leaned against my car door, exhausted in a way that felt older than the evening. You already knew those papers existed? She asked. Yes. How long? Long enough. She looked away. Tessa pushed me. She kept saying you'd never listen unless I made it big. You wrote the messages, Marin. I was venting. You moved money. I was scared. You had debt. I was going to tell you. When? She didn't answer. A car pulled into the lot, headlights sliding across her face. For a second, she looked like the woman I married after a long day, tired and unguarded. That was the cruelest part. I still recognized her. Recognition didn't change what she had done. I just wanted you to fight for the marriage, she said. I shook my head. You don't test a marriage by setting it on fire in front of an audience. She started crying harder. So that's it. 11 years and you're done. No, I said. 11 years is why I didn't walk away sooner. She reached for my sleeve. I stepped back, not dramatically, just enough. If there's anything left to save, I said, it starts with the truth, not another performance. You tell both families what actually happened. You disclose every account, every transfer, every debt. You go to counseling honestly, not as a courtroom where I'm the defendant. And you sign a clear financial agreement so this cannot happen again. Maren wiped her face. I can do counseling. That's one part. I can tell people it got out of hand. No, you tell them the truth. Her expression tightened. There it was. Not grief. Resistance. Luca, you have to understand how humiliating that would be for me. I stared at her. She heard it too. I could tell by the way she looked down. That came out wrong, she said quickly. No, I said. I think it came out exactly right. She tried again. I'm sorry. I am. But you embarrassed me in front of everyone. You planned to do that to me. That's different. Why? She cried into her hands. Because I was desperate. I got into my car. She knocked lightly on the window before I could close the door. Please, just come home and we'll talk. I looked at her through the glass. Not tonight. Then I closed the door. I didn't drive right away. I sat in the car with both hands on the steering wheel while my phone lit up over and over on the passenger seat. Tessa, you had no right to share private texts. Elaine, you need to fix what you did tonight. Nora, we love you. No pressure to answer. Victor, proud of you for staying steady. Maren, please pick up. Maren, I'm sorry. Maren, you're making this worse. Maren, Tessa put things in my head. Maren, please don't make me look like the villain. That last one told me more than any apology before it. I turned the phone off. For years, not answering had meant I was avoiding a fight. That night, for the first time, not answering felt like choosing peace. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise on my parents' couch. I had slept maybe 2 hours. Nora had left a blanket over me and a glass of water on the coffee table. The house was quiet in that early morning way, all gray light and old floorboards. I turned my phone back on and watched it flood with messages. Some people apologized for laughing at things they shouldn't have laughed at. Some asked if the bank statements were real. Some told me I should have handled it privately, which would have meant letting Maren handle it publicly first and then cleaning up quietly after her. I didn't answer most of them. I called Grant. When he picked up, I said, I'm ready to file. He didn't sound surprised. Did you move any money? No. Did you threaten her? No. Good. Send me the latest statements. We'll take the proper steps today. So that is what I did. I called the bank and followed the legal process for protecting the joint funds. I sent Grant the updated transfer records. I wrote down what happened at dinner while it was fresh, not to dramatize it, but because details blur when people start rewriting them. Maren called 17 times before noon. When I finally answered, she sounded wrecked. I told my mom some of it, she said. Some of it. She knows about the transfers. And the debt. Silence. Maren. I was going to tell her. And the texts. She doesn't need every ugly detail. I closed my eyes. That was the condition. You're being rigid. No. I'm being clear. She started crying again, softer this time. I said I was sorry. I know. Then why are you still doing this? Because you're more upset about being seen than about what you did. I didn't say that at first. I let the sentence sit in my mouth until it lost its sharpest edge. Then I said, because the apology keeps stopping right before the truth. She hung up on me. By the end of that week, Grant had filed the papers. It wasn't instant. It wasn't clean. Divorce never is, especially after 11 years of shared routines and family stories and coffee mugs that still feel assigned to someone. But it was real. Maren did eventually admit enough that her version of the anniversary dinner stopped working. Tessa tried to tell people I had weaponized private pain, but Victor asked her, in the family chat, whether private pain included coaching her sister to use both families as pressure. She stopped replying after that. Elaine stayed angry at me longer than she stayed angry at the facts. I expected that. She wanted her daughter protected from shame, but she had never minded when shame was pointed at me. Over time, even she stopped defending the dinner. She never apologized directly. She did send one message that said, "I wish things had been handled differently." I replied, "So do I." That was all. My mother told me later that she had noticed more than I realized. The little digs. The way I smiled too fast after Marin made a joke at my expense. The way I checked Marin's face before answering questions at family dinners. "Why didn't you say anything?" I asked her. Nora looked sad. "Because every time I started to, you asked me not to interfere." That was fair. Painful, but fair. I had spent years managing everyone else's comfort and calling it loyalty. I had treated Marin's reputation like something I was responsible for carrying, even when she kept using mine as a place to wipe her feet. The last time Marin and I spoke before the filing became impossible to pretend away, she asked me if I hated her. I was sitting in my car outside a bank branch with a folder on the passenger seat. Not the same folder from dinner. A new one. Divorce creates folders the way storms create branches in the road. "No," I said. She breathed shakily. "Then why can't we undo this?" I looked at the building in front of me, at people walking in and out carrying normal errands, normal problems, normal Tuesday mornings. Because undoing it would mean pretending I didn't see what I saw. She said nothing. And I can't be married to someone who needs an audience before she can tell the truth. For once, Marin had no sharp answer. After the call ended, I sat there for a while with the engine off. My phone stayed dark in my hand. No buzzing. No family chat. No performance to manage. I used to think silence meant I had lost. That if I didn't defend myself instantly, the loudest person got to decide who I was. But silence can mean something else when it's chosen instead of forced. That day, I put the phone face down, picked up the folder, and walked into the bank to finish protecting the life I had left. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. I felt sad. I felt angry in ways that came and went when I least expected them. But underneath all of that, there was something steady. For the first time in years, I was no longer helping someone else turn my dignity into a punchline. And when I stopped answering every accusation, every demand, every rewritten version of the truth, the world didn't end. It just got quiet. And I could finally hear myself think. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.